In this project, we're going to see two of the coolest things that Onshape provides. We're going to see how it enables collaboration in the cloud, just like Google Docs, and we're also going to see the power of multi-part studios. So for this project, we're going to make the collaboration cylinder. First thing we've done actually as a team is we clicked the plus sign and hit import, and we actually imported a screenshot of the project that we're going to create. We've also created tabs across the bottom. 3 of us are going to collaborate on this project, and each one of us has a tab where we're going to make our parts. I'm going to make my parts down there, and you can actually see that Tandre, we've invited him to the document by clicking share, and there he is right there. I clicked I invited him as an individual, and I've also invited Raj. So the 3 of us are going to collaborate on this project. You can see that Tandre is already logged in. You can see the green T up here at the top. You can even tell what tab he's working on. He's also opened this picture tab down at the bottom, and he's working on that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on my parts. Tandre is going to get started on his. Raj will do hers, and then we'll collaborate on the assembly. Pretty awesome. Now for this video, I'm going to make all the parts, but in real life, this would take 1/3 the time because while I'm working on mine, I've got 2 teammates working on their parts at the exact same time. It's really powerful for us to be able to collaborate all in the same document at the same time. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the comments and see that I've already elected to do the blue base and the outer cylinder. And then when I made that comment, Tandre replied and said, "I'll do the inner cylinder. What's the inner diameter?" And I said it's 90 millimeters. One of the fun things about this project is there are no dimensions, so it's kind of up to us to figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is sketch on the front plane. I hit Shift S, then N for normal, R for rectangle. I'm going to draw a rectangle. I don't know the size of the rectangle yet. I do know this one of the dimensions of the circle I said was going to be 90. I said the inner diameter of the circle was going to be 90. So let's do that. I'm going to type 90. And so there's one dimension. The rest I don't know. This outer circle looks like about that size as I look at the picture. These two, yeah, maybe let's make them 5 apart from each other. And then the rectangle is something about yay big. So I'm gonna hit D for dimension, and let's make this one 120. And that's good. I'm gonna hit P to turn the planes off, and I can just click these 2 edges and say E and make them equal. Now I could extrude this now and then fillet the outer corners. What I'm going to do for this part, because I'm making a couple parts in this part studio, I'm going to kind of make a master sketch. So I'm going to add some other geometry to this same sketch. So I'm going to click a sketch fillet and click the 4 corners. If I click these 4 corners, that looks good. I'm going to click the left button to finish. And I think 10 actually, that 5 that we've got here, that's a little small. I'm going to make that 10. That looks great. Now I'm going to add 4 circles for the holes. So I'm going to type C for circle, and I'm going to make my 4 circles. I'm not even going to try to make them the same size because once I'm done, I can just click all 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and type E for equals. And now I just have to put a dimension on one of them. D for dimension. Let's make them 10. That should be fully constrained. It looks like when I added those sketch fillets, I lost my equals constraint, so I'm just going to add that back. So I'm going to click these 2 and say E for equals. So that sketch is done. Now I'm going to use it to make a couple different features. First feature, I'm going to extrude, click Shift E or click extrude. Let's just extrude, actually let's just extrude that much for the first feature. Let's maybe make it 15. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to turn that sketch back on and extrude the base, which is this, and also the outer circle there. And I'm going to make sure that is going to add to my existing geometry. And let's just make that like 10 or something. All right, that looks great. So now I've got my part. Actually, 10 is a little big. Let's make it 5. Great. Okay, now the next, that looks pretty good. Now that part is actually done. That part is done, and I'm going to rename that part. I like to try to get in the habit of that. I'm going to call that the base. Now I'm going to make the second part, which is the outer cylinder. For that, I've got the sketch visible. I'm just going to extrude this ring right there. So I'm going to click extrude, click that ring. I'm going to click the bottom in this view square up here. I'm going to zoom out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this arrow just to drag, because again, we don't know all the dimensions. I think I'm just going to drag it up till it looks pretty good. I'm looking at the picture of the cylinder. I think that looks pretty good right there. So looks like my internet is dragging a little bit, so I'm just going to give that a second to update. It's still updating. That's about right. I'm going to add maybe a little more to that. Let's go with like 200 or something like that. So let's just type 200 and hit OK. And I think that's going to look good. That looks pretty great. Hit OK. Now I've got my other cylinder. Now that actually added to my existing geometry, so I need to go back, edit that, and make sure that's a new part, not an add. And that's pretty easy to do. Just select new. And now I've got cylinder. And I'm going to rename this as cylinder. I think I'm done. Now, if I want to mess with the appearance, I can always go to my appearance tab, open that up, and I think this slider here will be what makes it slightly transparent. And so that looks a little bit more like the picture that we were given. I can turn that sketch off. The last thing I'm going to do is extrude. Actually, I'm going to turn that sketch back on because I'm going to make one more part. And that last part is the little support pieces. So I'm going to make one more extrude. I'm going to select this, let's see, this circle, just this one circle here. And I'm going to make sure that's a new part. And what I can do is I can actually say up to face to make sure that whatever I make this, it'll always be the same size as this cylinder. So if I select up to face, I can select this face, and that new part will be the exact same size, and I'm done. And again, I think that went as an add, so I'm going to edit it and make sure it's a new part. New. There. Now that's part 3. I'm going to right-click, rename, and call it support. So there, I've done my parts. That's all I have to do. My teammates by now would be done with their parts, but again, for this video, I'm going to make them all. So let's go see what Andre needs to work on. He's going to just do this blue piece and this vertical shaft. So he's got 2 pieces to make. A couple ways we could make that blue piece. Let's use a shell for that one. I think that will maybe be a good way to do that. So I think he said he's going to make the diameter 30. So let's sketch on this plane, N for normal, C for circle. Let's make this one 30. And that is a 30. Let's make that 30. And again, well, actually, this has to fit inside that other cylinder, which was 90. So we actually know the diameter. We know the diameter of that next circle that we have to draw. That one's 90. And that's probably all we need for that sketch. Then I'm going to just extrude that. We don't know the size. Actually, that looks pretty good right there. We'll keep it. P to turn the planes off. And then I'm going to use shell. I don't know if we've used shell before, but I'm going to remove this face and keep the walls 2.5 millimeters thick in one click. How easy was that? That's awesome. And then the next part that Tandre needs to make is the inner shaft, and I might be able to just select. I might be able to select some existing geometry. Yeah, I'm going to turn that sketch on. Make sure I get just this circle here. There. I'm going to click that. It's probably also around 200. I'm going to make sure it's a new part around 200. There it is. I'm going to rename both of those. Rename the first one piston and shaft. Tandre's done with his parts. Now let's get on to Raj's parts. Raj is going to make these top 2 pieces. Let's see. That top, just for fun, let's make that top one a revolve. And so the only geometry we really know is that there's a 30 that we need to match. The rest is up to us. So just for fun, like I said, let's make a revolve. Shift S, N for normal. Let's make a center line, L for line, Q for construction. I'm going to draw my line there, P to turn the planes off, L for line. I'm going to draw, I think it has to look like this. We draw this shape. Roughly there. That's basically the shape I want to revolve. D for dimension. The only thing I really need is that 30. Notice if I put my mouse here, it's a radius. When I revolve it, I want it to be diameter, so I'm going to move my mouse over and that becomes a diameter, and I want that to be 30. The rest is kind of up to us. Let's maybe make this 3. Let's make this also 3 here. And then let's add a, oops, that wasn't a 3. 3. Let's add a diameter. Again, if I put my mouse here, this is a radius. If I move this over here, once it's revolved, that'll become a diameter. 15 looks good. Let's give the overall part a height. 15 looks good. And, oh yeah, the depth of this whole, like, I'm looking at it, maybe 10. That thing's fully constrained. I'm going to hit OK. So that I'm going to revolve. And what face do I want to revolve? This. What axis do I want to revolve it around? Right there. I'm done. So that is Raj's first part. Raj has to make one other part. It's the thing that sits on top. Let's sketch on top here. Hit N for normal. Looks like there's a rectangle or a square part. I'll do R for rectangle. I don't know. It looks something like that. Looks like maybe 40 by 30, sure. All right, Shift S, we're gonna extrude that. We want it to fit down, Shift E, I mean. We want to extrude that down so it fits down onto the cylinder. So it's gonna be a new part. And we're gonna flip it over. And it's only like 3 millimeters thick. So there, 3. Oh, and it looks like I'm extruding both faces. I don't want to do that. So let's click up here. Make sure I don't. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. Okay. Now I've got. Let's see. Let's sketch on. Let's sketch on this face. N for normal. Again, there's always a couple ways to do these things. I'm going to do G for corner rectangle. Grab this corner. I'm just going to make sure these two are coincident by clicking that and saying I for coincident. C for circle, find this midpoint here and sketch out to here. And then I'm going to do another circle. Don't know what that diameter is, but let's put some dimensions on this. Let's maybe make that 10. And what do we need? We need to know the height of this. 25, sure. That's actually fully constrained. Now, one of the cool things about Onshape is I don't have to make only open, complete profiles. I can make a sketch like this where I've got all kinds of overlapping lines and then just select what I want to extrude. I'm going to extrude this, this, and this. And that'll hopefully shade in for me once my computer catches up to me. And I want to make sure that's an add to the existing geometry. I'm going to make it 3 thick. And it actually doesn't. Oh, speaking of faces I want to extrude, I also want to extrude down here. I think that looks pretty good. I'm hitting OK. There. And then I can just mirror that across. So I'm going to find my mirror tool. And I need to use one of my planes. I'm mousing over my planes. Where are they? Oh wait, a mirror plane. I'm going to use that mirror plane. And what entity do I want to mirror? This last extrude I did. Entities to mirror. Oh, I need to do a feature mirror. There we go. Features to mirror. Right there. And we're done. So Raj has all her parts done. Tandre has his parts done. I've got my parts done. It's time to assemble. We can all jump into the assembly and do this together. I'm just going ahead and show you how it might work. So again, we've used the comments to collaborate. We're all working on the same document at the same time. We're all in different tabs. Now I'm going to go into the assembly, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop in all 3 part studios. So let's see how I do that. I'm going to hit insert. First thing I'm going to insert is my stuff. I'm going to select the whole part studio. I'm just going to click checkbox to drop it all in there together. And then what I can do, before I do, whoops, that's actually not what I wanted to do. That was another one I did. So let's hit insert. I'm going to hit my parts, that's what I meant. And then I'm going to hit checkbox, and that'll drop it in. What I can do is fix one of these. I like to fix the base or something like that right off the bat. So that's fixed. That's not going to go anywhere. I can't drag that anymore. Now, before I do anything else, I might be able to replicate this blue part. Match faces in, let's do match faces in parts. Let's try that. Parts to find a match in here. And let's see if that works. Didn't like that? It didn't like that. Let's do match individual faces. Let's just do grab a face and say this. That sometimes works when I can replicate. Well, another thing I can do is just grab. I can grab a couple more. So I'm going to insert another part, and I'm going to click inside this the parts I just made. This is the stuff I made. I'm going to grab this support and drop that in there. Oops, and there we go. And then I can copy it. Copy and hit paste, paste, Control V, Control V. So there, now I've got that part in there a few times, and I can do a couple really quick fasten mates. So I'm going to fasten, I'm going to grab the mate connector right here. There we go. I'm going to grab that mate connector. Hopefully it grabbed it. Yep. And I'm going to grab that mate connector, and those should be in. Good. Let's do another fasten mate. Repeat the process. So I made one of these blue parts in the part studio, and then once I'm at the assembly level, then I have to go in and mate them all. There's another one. Okay, last one. I'm going to select that mate connector and turn off my comments here and that mate connector, and I should be good. All right, fastened those all in there. One thing I can do actually, looks like when I modeled this cylinder, I grabbed the bottom plane and extruded up. So I actually went through the base, which I don't want. So I'm going to add a fasten to here. And it's that easy to make sure I've got the right, yeah, that looks much better. Cool. All right, so that is ready to go. Now, the rest will actually be really easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop Raj's, let's drop Tandre's parts in. So I'm going to click Tandre's parts. And again, I'm going to just click out here, just drop them somewhere random. And the first thing I'm going to do, because a lot of times what happens when you're modeling in Part Studios is you model them in the orientation you want the final assembly. So before I do anything else, I'm just going to grab all of Tandre's parts and say group. And so what that means is I've locked together the way they were assembled. That's the way I want it. So now all I need is a slider mate. I think that's the mate I want. Yeah, I want a slider mate. And the mate connectors could be that one and literally that one. And that's it. And this will now slide in there. Pretty cool, right? Yep, I got a slider mate. So I'm just going to push that down there. And there. That was easy. So I dropped Tandre's parts in, grouped them, and then added one mate. Oh, I just realized I need a top on this. Oh, and I'm going to need a hole. Let's go back to my parts, and I'm going to add a hole in here. Let's I don't have that geometry in there yet. Let's just go ahead and sketch it here. There's a couple ways I could do that, but I think right here is fine. So I'm going to hit C for circle. 30 was the diameter, 30. And I'm going to extrude that as a cut, as a remove. Yep. And that's going to be through all. Flip it around. Okay. So that is now a cut. Here's what I'm going to do. This is not going to add too much complexity. So I'm going to go into my configurations panel. I'm going to configure this thing and just say default and no hole. I'm adding one configuration, not that tricky. Configure features, that last extrude, unsuppressed, I'm going to add that to, and I'm going to say done. So all I've done is make two configurations. Look how quickly and easy that was to make two configurations. I added configure features, clicked extrude 5, and I want unsuppressed in there just in the no hole configuration. So in the no hole configuration, I will have the hole unsuppressed, meaning it'll actually exist. So let's see what that looks like. So now when I go back to my assembly, this guy is in the default, because actually no hole would be, well, we'll figure it out. I might have renamed that funny, but let's drop in another one of those top parts, and that is under my parts, and it is the base. And when I drop it in here, I'm going to select the one with a hole, which I think I called a no hole, but that's fine. So I'm going to select the configuration for this guy, change configuration. I could have selected it, yeah, when I selected it in here, I could have selected the configuration while I was dropping it in. That's usually the way you do it. And now I've got one with a hole, which is much better. So now let's see how I want to do a mate. Let's do a fasten mate, maybe. How do we want to do it? Let's try this. Yeah, and let's see that mate connector. That will look good. I'm just going to flip it over. I think we're done. Yeah, that looks great. Although I need to make those longer if that's going to fit. Well, we can fix that later. So actually, when I set up to face, I need to add a thickness up there. Let's go back to those shafts. Let's go back to my parts, and I'm going to add an offset to that. So how thick was this guy? This guy, that first extrude, I think was 15. Yeah. So when I made those last parts, up to face with an offset of 15. That'll make it a little bit taller. Now when I go back to my assembly, I think it's looking good. Did I offset them the wrong direction? Or let's go back. I wonder if I just offset those the wrong direction. Yes, I did. So I'm gonna go back one more time, edit that, and hit the flip on the offset. I need those taller, not shorter. Now back to my assembly. Now, by the way, this is just a configuration challenge. And now what's going on? So we're, it's possible you're gonna, none of this has to be exact. In fact, I like the way that looks. I'm gonna leave it for now. Last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna drop in Roger's parts and we're done. So Roger's parts are here. Again, I'm just gonna drop them anywhere, like right out there in space, hit OK. I'm gonna select all Roger's parts and group them so they keep their configuration or their orientation the way Roger drew them. I'm gonna add one fasten mate. I'm gonna select that mate connector and this mate connector, and we are done. Look how easy it is to assemble in Onshape. I love it. And this should still move up and down. And you can even add limits to a slider mate. So if I edit this, I can say I can add limits. So there's some maximum Z that it'll move. So I can keep everything from from going through the bottom or falling through the top. But for now, I think this is basically what we wanted. You can always tweak some of these parts, but I think that looks a lot like the goal that we wanted to do. So that's in the assembly. Nice work.